The Unlikely Innovators with Mike Commito and Steve Gravel. Presented by Cambrian R&D and the Center for Smart Mining.
Mike, we're back, and as always, we're on location, and today we're at IROC. And when you hear IROC, you might think, is this some kind of online karaoke band? It isn't. We're at the integrated Remote Operations Center at Vale Base Metals. And today, we're speaking to some very innovative women in honor of the International Day of Women in Mining. I think we've had a great time.
Up until your intro, we were doing such a great job. But no, yes, it was a special episode this month because obviously we're releasing this on Saturday, which is the day of International Day of Women in Mining, which is every June 15th. So this year it happens to fall on June 15th. So you can listen to it live. Well, not live. Semi-live into your
It'll look
podcast
like it was live.
catcher on the 15th or whenever you're celebrating International Day of Women in Mining, maybe later that week or prior to that Saturday. But we had the chance to talk to four different staff members here at IROC, and I think what I'm leaving with after they eventually kick us out of this room is just how inspiring all of these different women were today, talking about their career path, their journey into mining, how they've, I think, really love what they do. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of one of the takeaways from today and I think also the message they've had to girls and women is that anyone should consider a career in mining, and I don't think that you should necessarily think of it is off limits. Obviously, it's still largely in many respects a male-dominated profession, but I think there's been a lot of progress over the last several decades and even longer than that. And I think more and more now, especially as we try to close that skills gap in mining, that there is a place for everybody. Yeah. And certainly I think it's something that everybody should consider as there's room for you, and there's tons of opportunities, and I think a lot of rewarding opportunities.
Yeah, and I think what struck me is just how passionate they are about working in mining. It's something that we work in every day, but just to understand that there's a role for everyone. And as a result, we should look everywhere for people to work in mining. And I think if IROC is a testament to that, you could definitely see that in everyone. They have different reasons why, but the unifying theme is, helping people, ensuring safety, challenging work, and not challenging in the negative way, but just there's always a problem to solve. And I think that's what really shined through for me, for the women that we interviewed today. So before I butcher another acronym, I think what we'll do now is go to the women of IROC.
Well, we're here with Sabrina Lawler, who is the IROC lead for Crate and Mine, and Sabrina's here to also audition for her own podcast that she's going to start after this interview. Welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited to have you here. The show is called The Unlikely Innovators. So one of the themes that we like to highlight in the show is people who have taken sometimes unlikely journeys to get into their careers. And we understand that you went from fitness to mining. Can you maybe talk about that jump? Because on the surface, it certainly seems a little bit unlikely, but I'm sure there's some connections you'll make that'll show us that maybe it's not all that unlikely.
So I'm originally from a small mining town in Newfoundland called Labrador City. There's a mine there, Rio Tinto. It's a surface mine. I went to university in Ottawa for nutrition primarily, and they have a program there that if your parents work on site, they do a summer program, and you have the opportunity to work in the mine and do whatever, much as similar as Vale. So fast forward, when I was done university, I moved back there because of a previous relationship, and you don't need one or more of anybody in a small community, so there's no opportunities for me at Labrador Granville. I kind of just lucked into a job at the mine, and so I was on haul trucks primarily, and then they needed drillers, and I put my name in, and it was on the job training, and that's kind of what set everything in motion. At the time, drilling was primarily a very male-dominant industry, so it came with a lot of I definitely wasn't welcomed. I would say so. I had to prove myself time and time again over the years, so that the individuals and my coworkers were like, oh, "Okay, she means business." Even though this is designed for men, she's not going away. We're gonna have to get used to her. So I don't know if that helps or if that's what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's getting that acceptance was I'm sure like a watershed moment for you. And I think when I was reading your bio, I saw the term like automated pit vipers and things like that. And some of the things that I really get obsessed with in mining is just the pace recently at the advance of technology.
Yes.
I mean, you've been in mining for 15 years, joined the IROC team not too long ago, brought a wealth of experience from the actual field. Can you talk about what you've seen change in technology over those 15 years? I know 15 years isn't, half a millennia or something like that, but what have you seen over the last 15 years?
Well, like, just obviously when it comes to like safety and mining, the process of have changed in a lot of ways, and especially in my background, which is like drill and blast. The rigs themselves, they have put a lot of like emphasis on innovation and moving towards obviously semi-autonomous, which is what we were working at primarily at the time. Not so much to take the human out of the seat, but to capture that human error that sometimes we don't have when you have someone in a piece of equipment, right? Now there's good and bad to that, because obviously when you do have an individual in a piece of equipment, a lot of operators I know will tell you that, like, you can hear it. Like, I know when my bit needs to be changed, because you can hear it starting to sing or whatever. You don't have that when you don't have an operator in the seat, but you also don't have to worry about like the drill walking itself over a face or this and that, right? And then you don't have to stop for like environmental hazards or like blasting and stuff. So in that respect, it's kind of nice. And you're in a nice little cushy office, kind of like IROC here, and you can operate multiple pieces of equipment at the same time, which works towards just where we want to get, because like mining's moving in that way no matter which way you look at it, whether you are on the forefront or not. And I don't think it's taken away from the jobs. I think it's just we need more skilled individuals, because it's not taken away from operators. It's just we're looking for more maintenance people, because as much as a piece of equipment operates and with nobody in it, you still need someone to maintain it. So you need skilled people who know these pieces of equipment, who can fix it at the same time. So
that's such an important thing. I mean, I was listening to people talk about job trends in mining and thinking, where are the jobs going to be? There's going to be still a lot of jobs in mining, even as we move autonomously.
Yeah, the jobs aren't going away. They're just transitioning more to take the operator out of the seat, but you still need people on the ground, boots on the ground, because these rigs still break, and especially when they're operating autonomously, they tend to break more, because as for drills primarily, especially rotary drills, they don't know that the steels need to be changed. And like you look at a drill that's operating autonomously and like it's just wobbly like this when it starts off, and you wouldn't have that if you had an operator, because they know that touch, they know that feel to the ground, right? So it's a trade-off. Yeah,
and maybe if I could just get you to talk a little bit about, so you've had that experience, like the hands-on, and now you're bringing that sort of wealth of knowledge and context to what you're doing at IROC.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing at IROC?
Like I was on the operational side back east, and then I did move into the management side. So now I'm kind of combining both here at IROC. So I obviously at Vale, we are dealing with more underground. So that was a learning curve in itself, but it's the same type of thing, just being able to capture the information and making sure that our operators are safe, that we can see where the gaps where we need to improve, and like also just helping our operators so that they're able to get the resources they need at the time that they need them. And we're there 24 hours a day, so we're 24-hour support, whereas like before, like, and it's not a perfect system, obviously, we're still improving as we go and move forwards, but like before, like you could be waiting, or like you might have leaky feed, you might have whatever, or LT, and just the resources weren't getting to you as quickly. So now there's one person stationed there who can take all that information and then dispatch it to the stakeholders who need to know it.
Yeah, it almost feels like I'm at NASA, like at Mission Control.
Definitely feels
That's
that
the
way.
vibe when we came into this room. So seems like a great place to work. We talked about, like, there's obviously going to be a continued need for skilled workers in mining. That's certainly not going away, and I think obviously women can play a key role in helping to meet that skills gap. What would you say to women who maybe didn't think that mining would be a career opportunity for me, or a career path that I should take? What would you say to women that may be on the fence and maybe should be considering a career in mining?
I would say that there's endless possibilities out there. Your gender shouldn't be something that you consider when you consider what type of career future you want. There's all sorts of opportunities from nurses, male nurses to women in mining. So like, and as we progress, the doors are just opening more and more and more, and all the ambition that you have, like, women in trades are becoming more, you see it more and more every day, and rightfully so. Why not? Women, if you look at statistics for driving of like haulage trucks and like operating gear, they're actually a safer operator just because, and a cleaner operator because they tend to take a little bit more pride, or like, and they tend to operate the rigs at a safer speed, because I can't speak to why, but that's just what the data says. So I think that moving forwards, it'd be wonderful to see more women, and just the opportunities that like this generation has, and moving forwards, the sky is the limit for them. I hope to continue to like make changes in this industry, and I have a lot of big ambitions still to hopefully fulfill in the next coming years. So.
Yeah. The data doesn't lie, I guess, right?
I guess so.
So we wanted to thank you, obviously, for doing this. I know that this isn't your everyday occurrence, but we wanted to thank you for sharing your insights. As we end, I just wanted to ask you, since this is coming out, this podcast will be coming out on the International Day of Women in Mining on June 15th. To the extent you can formulate something quickly in your mind, what would your message be to share with girls and women on that day?
You can be whomever you want to be, whatever you want to be, and just because there may be some barricades or obstacles in your way, resilience and hard work can get you whatever you want. So the sky is the limit.
That's awesome. Sabrina Lawler, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
We're looking forward to your podcast when it comes out.
Okay. Don't hold your breath.
All right. We're now here with Kim Tkachuk, who's the IROC lead for South Mine. It's rather fitting that during the Stanley Cup playoffs, we've got a Tkachuk interview. So I know there's no relation, but no. I was going to go there, Steve. You always.
I don't know how you couldn't go there.
It's our second reference in our third interview. So,
I know.
It's going to keep rolling. But Kim, thank you so much for doing this. We had a look at your bio before you came in, and, one of the things that leapt out at us was that, you went back to school a little bit after your kids got a little bit older, and it's never easy to go back to school or make that decision to go back. Can you talk a little bit about that journey, your decision to go back to school, and how your education at that point in your life has helped you prepare for a career in mining that you have now?
Absolutely. My children, so it was very important to me to stay home with them. I was living down south. It was very, very important to me, and as a success as well, to raise my children. So when they went to full-time school, I was looking for to get back into the work field. So I was introduced to a company that they were gardening. So I started just part-time. I wanted to be able to still be with my children in the summer, and I ended up falling in love with it, just mentally, physically, what it does for you. So then I worked for them for a little bit, and then when I was 44, I made the decision to go back and get the horticulture technician degree, and it was such a phenomenal experience. When I was in high school, I was not the best student, but to show my children as well, to go back to school at 44, I had to relearn everything, especially like previously I was a hairstylist, so I was always in the trades. So for myself to have to learn how to use computers and given assignments and it was a phenomenal journey, and I ended up actually breaking my leg at the end of my coming up to my graduation, and it was very hard because I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to complete this? And once again, you just persevere and you make it work. And so I graduated with honors. It was a very wonderful moment in my life to have my children see me graduate, and also to be an inspiration to them, to show them how to study, to how to really focus, and it's never too late. Yep. With the horticulture, the construction aspect really helped me with the mining, just policies, procedures, working with the ministry as well. So it did lead into the mining industry for me. There was the connection as well. I was very much into design and installation. So being physical, it's really important to really be physical in your job, especially with mining or horticulture. You just have to really get in there and do your best. That's for sure.
So I got to ask though, you obviously went across the stage in crutches to accept your
Actually,
diploma,
no.
or?
Luckily
Okay.
enough, I was able to wobble through. Yes, it was good. It was a fine moment.
Yeah, working at a college, you always get a couple people that might have had an unfortunate injury, and there's always like one or two that have crutches.
Yeah.
And you're always wondering what's the story behind that,
Yeah,
right?
I was not one of those people, thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned hairstylist, and that must be why your hair looks so fabulous today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just make you.
blush.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll make your face turn red. So you mentioned your children are older now.
Yes.
One of the things that we've heard from women in mining is that what can be challenging sometimes, or maybe not so challenging, but so just definitely something different from working in everyday jobs, is sometimes the shift work and the nature of the job can be challenging. Can you sort of reflect a bit on that? What it means to be a parent and juggle, trying a new industry, even though your kids were a bit older when you entered mining. Just talk a little bit about the nature of the mining work and how that has interacted with you being a parent.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, shift work changes things for sure, especially when your children are a little bit younger. For myself, they were at the age where they were able to stay home by themselves, but as well as support. I mean, my husband, even their father as well. Like, you just all have to work together to be able to support each other. Shift work is a very different world for sure. I really enjoy it here as well, like the 12 hours, but they're old enough now that they're able to support the homestead as well, right? They're, when I'm working, they take on the dishes, they take on the laundry, they take on some housework. So it's just showing them what it is to be growing up as an adult, right? And just, participating in the home and learning skills for themselves.
I still have freeloaders right now. They're 4 and 8. So although actually, you know what? I should say this because I take that back. My oldest now in the mornings makes our coffee.
Oh, that's awesome.
I come down and the
Free
coffee
labor.
is there and she puts the cream in and it's actually like,
Isn't
she's
it
doing
nice?
a great job. So she's like, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
I take back my freeloading comment.
And they take pride in it
Yeah.
as well. Like, just those little things. And it just goes to show, you know what? Pat yourself
Yeah.
in the back a
Yeah,
little
give
bit,
them good
right?
feedback. Yeah,
Yeah.
good
Oh,
yeah.
feedback
We
loop.
love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she'll never stop doing it.
No, I know. It's
That's
great.
right. And she'll start drinking it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
Eventually.
maybe then it'll slow down for you if she's making her own.
Making your own, then it's like, Dad,
Yeah.
you can get your own coffee. But I realize now that we didn't, you talked about how you fell in love working with the horticultural company and gardening, and I think the physical and the mental aspect of that. But we wanted to ask you about, what's your favorite part about, working here at IROC, but also like before we get to that question, what drew you into mining from going back to school in the horticultural technician program and then, getting into this industry?
Well, at the time that I graduated, of course, COVID, right?
Yeah.
So what was happening is I'm originally from Sudbury, but I've lived away. I was living down south, and it was this job that brought me back to Sudbury, actually, after all these years. So with the connection with the construction, that's what I applied and luckily was hired on. So like, I just love learning anything new, right? So having that connection of the construction and then coming in and even like the idea of, learning to drive big machines and, it's so fascinating because it's teaching you another skill that so many people might not be willing to try, especially being a little bit older as well, right? You're coming into a very interesting, can be dangerous environment, and just to challenge yourself to, take the steps to be able to, I can do this. I can drive these machines, right? So, yeah.
So what would be your favorite aspect of your job here?
Of IROC, well, in every career that I've always had, I love customer service angle. In my opinion, one of the hardest things nowadays is seeing that customer service. And for me, I've always thrived on helping people and, finding solutions. So, and I felt that way with mining as well. Like I was in the roads crew, so water truck grader operator. So my focus was I was making things better, dust suppression. I was trying to make things better for the crews, and I always put my heart and soul into it. But with IROC, what I love is I get to assist the supervisors as well as the crews, just to make things easier for them. What can I do? Be that middleman to, make their jobs easier then that way they can focus on being underground and supporting their crews, where I can be their support. And again, even for the crews as well, Kim, I need this. Yep, absolutely. What can we do to solve your problem? So that's, for myself, it's all about customer service, and I just love, being able to solve the problems.
That's such an interesting lens. I had never considered customer service as such an important thing in mining, but when you're looking at those internal customers, basically, that's a really cool lens to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Kim, this podcast is going to be coming out on International Day of Women in Mining on June 15th. And you've had such an interesting background so far, and you've had your fingers in a number of pies. What would you tell girls and women? What kind of advice, or what would your message be to them about mining? Whether it be, getting into mining or considering mining, what would your message be to them?
Well, to take the chance, absolutely, and always strive, because you never know where life will bring you and what you can learn. There's this quote I always read, and I thought it was fantastic. It says, "Success is never owned; it's rented, and the rent is due every day. And it doesn't matter what you do; you can be successful." Ask the questions. Never stop asking questions. Just keep pushing forward and find those answers for yourself.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Kim, we wanted to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And being another in the long list of Unlikely Innovators, and thanks for joining us. All right, and we're back, and we're joined by Carol Coutu, who is the IROC lead for North Mine. Carol, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so our podcast is called The Unlikely Innovators, and some would say it's a bit of an unlikely journey to go from a laboratory technician to driving a scoop to now joining the IROC team. Can you tell a little bit about how that happened, and walk us through how that jump happened?
Well, probably about 13 years ago, I had a career opportunity to either go into healthcare or go into mining. As you know, Sudbury is either healthcare or mining.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of in between. Back then, my journey took me to healthcare, but I always kind of knew in the back of my mind that mining would surface eventually. So almost 13 years later, they were having a big job fair in, I think it was March. So threw my application in, and they were looking to get a lot of women in. So I had my opportunity there, and here we are almost 4 years later.
Yeah, and what made you consider mining initially? Because, if you do a job long enough in healthcare, you might think, this is where my career path is going to go onward and upward in that. But what makes a person then say, you know what, I'm going underground?
I don't really know where the switch actually happened. A lot of my family's background is mining.
Sure.
So, a lot of our family party discussions are around mining. So I thought, you know what, it's time that I make that switch, join the crowd, see what it's all about. Going underground was an excellent opportunity to do that. It's definitely been an eye-opening experience for me. I mean, there's lots of pluses, lots of minuses in any career, but so far so good.
More pluses than minuses?
More pluses than minuses.
That's what you
more
want.
pluses
That's
than
what you
minuses.
want. Yeah.
In a career or on the ice.
Yeah, well, he always has to tie it back to hockey.
It's my shtick.
Yeah.
But we actually have a small scoop in our electric vehicle lab at Cambrian College. Steve and I are, of course, not allowed to drive it, despite our protestations. And I know that now you're working here at IROC, but you'd driven the scoop previously. Is it as much fun as we think it is? Because every day we go into that shop and we're like, if only I could get on the ones and twos right now, but not yet.
But bring it back to your childhood days when we were playing with giant Tonka toys and playing in the mud and the dirt.
Yeah.
Bring it on life-size level. It's as much fun. Definitely as much fun. You guys.
So
need to
what
get
I'm
on
hearing is from an expert that works at IROC that you and I should be driving the scoop.
Yeah, I think if you could say that in the camera to our president, Christine Morrissey, that'd be great.
You should let them drive the scoop at least once.
There we go.
See?
Even if we don't have the training.
No,
I think
we'll get the training
We'll
first.
get the training first. We'll get the training first. So I just wanted to circle back just a little bit to your prior education. And we're obviously from Cambrian College. We train a host of tradespeople and people in various careers. Your lab technician training, were you able to take on any of that learning and transition it to what you're doing now, what you've done in the past? How did that sort of transition? How did the formal education that you received, does it still serve you in your sort of day-to-day work?
Well, a lot of it does still serve in day-to-day work. A lot of being a lab technician is not just working down in the lab. It's a lot of patient-based, people-based. So you can always take that people knowledge and you can bring it to any other work group that you're in. So it was a lot of people-based knowledge, computer knowledge, which now working at IROC is kind of what we do here.
Yeah.
We're all computer-based and numbers pushed, which is fantastic. So I was able to take a lot of the people persons and the computer use and bring it to both underground and to IROC.
And I would imagine precision, attention to detail might be pretty important.
Attention to detail, definitely a big importance, and kind of being able to have your attention split. When you're underground, there's a lot of listening, a lot of surrounding awareness. You're in a hazardous position, so you've got to kind of be alert and awake and be able to multitask your attention span. Same thing here, definitely attention to details, making sure that we're recording everything correctly and kind of watching over everybody.
That's super.
We wanted to thank you for sharing your journey and some of your story with us today. But as you may know, that we're doing this podcast with a few of your colleagues today as part of International Day of Women in Mining, which is June 15th. So knowing that the podcast is going to be coming out that day, and ideally we're going to hopefully have some girls and women listening to that, is there a message you would want to share with girls and women who might be considering a career in mining, who might want to tune in that day and listen to what you had to say?
Absolutely. Just go for it. Don't be afraid of walking into the man's world, because it is changing.
Yeah.
And we are gaining footing, and the knowledge and experience that the older generation actually bring to women in mining now is phenomenal and fantastic. Just don't let it hold you back. If you're afraid, just take that leap.
That's great. Just like you did, from
Just
the lab to the underground
Yeah,
mine.
from the lab to the underground mining. It was definitely a leap, but well worth it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Carol.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, we're back, and we're joined by Christine Gasteiger, who is the IROC superintendent. And we've been hanging out with some of your lovely female staff here, and they're just unreal people to get to know. It was just an awesome opportunity to meet with them. So thanks so much for joining us to tie it all together.
Sounds good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. So we're here at the IROC facility, which was referred to a number of times. Mike called it NASA. It's been referred to as the air traffic control for Vale's underground operations. Can you tell us a little bit more about what goes on here?
Yeah, so, really we're doing a whole bunch of stuff, but, to focus on three key things. The first would be data. So just capturing that data real time as things are occurring and packaging it up nicely and sending that back to the site so that people have the right information to make decisions, solve problems, and put in actions to resolve issues. The second is visibility. It can really be a black box underground, and people can go underground at 6:30 a.m. and come back at 4, and nobody really understood how the day went. And so with IROC, we have visibility on what the equipment's doing, how the shift's progressing, and what's getting in people's way. And then the third is this short interval control concept that's been talked about a lot in the mining industry. And for us, we've defined it as, if you're delayed greater than 15 minutes, give us a call and we'll figure something out. So whether you need a new piece of equipment, you need a new workplace, you need some prints, or you need some material to get you going, we'll support and work with the supervisors to make that happen.
That's awesome. Those are three of the things that we hear about most in mining. So it seems like you're really trying to tackle some real pain points from legacy mining. So this is the mining of the future in many ways.
Yep. Yeah. It's all about solving problems and helping people.
That's awesome.
And we, Steve alluded to this earlier, but we had the chance to talk to, a few of your staff today, and they've all had some really inspiring stories, especially those that are new to mining. I think that's one of the things that's kind of stuck out as a thread today, is that, people who have had different career paths, they've entered mining, and now they're making a very successful career for themselves here. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how it's important for Vale and IROC to help, talent develop and empower them so that they can take those steps forward to progress and make a career in mining?
Yeah, so I think when we were recruiting for IROC leads, we were looking for some behaviors that were non-negotiables, and those were, people who like to help, people who like to solve problems, people who have that high emotional intelligence and can read a room, and can stay calm under a stressful situation. And so that was really the priority in recruitment. other things we can teach. And so we've ended up with this really diverse team of people that have those key behaviors and different backgrounds, and they support each other. So we've got some engineers and some geologists that are very tech savvy, understand the mine planning aspect. We have some seasoned supervisors who can support, junior supervisors, and, I've encountered this situation before. This is how I would handle it. So really that mentorship, and they're able to share their knowledge across a mine instead of just with their own crew. And then a lot of them, thought, I'm not qualified for that role. I'm not great with computers. And we've upskilled them and, given them sort of a second career in the mining industry. So it's really, for us, focusing on those key behaviors, and then we can teach everything else. If somebody wants to learn, they'll learn.
Yeah.
My gosh, that is an HR success. If that's what you screened for, the people you had us talk to today match those values perfectly.
Yeah.
So good on you guys for finding that talent. One of the other things that, so I get obsessed with these kinds of things, when like the
No.
Yeah, no, I know. I get it. Like, I'm a bit of a tech nerd, right? So
Okay.
I was wondering if you could kindly, people might not realize, from those that are outside of mining, just how data intensive it's become. I know that data has existed in mining for a long time. You've been collecting data, whether it's off ventilation or machines or whatever, but really the harnessing of that data into business insights to make interventions is really, I think, what is critically important about data in mining. Can you talk a bit more, or drill down, pardon the pun, a bit more on what IROC does in data and where you hope to take it in data?
Yeah, it's interesting when you say, data intensive, because that's also part of the problem.
Right.
People are just buried in data.
Right.
And so one of the things we've really focused on is working with different stakeholders at different levels of the organization and saying, what information do you need to know if your process is in control or not? And then focus on putting in actions to get it back under control. And so we have reports at different levels of the organization that show people the information they need, and you can quickly identify a problem. So, if you can see a problem as soon as you look, then you're focused on here. It's really hard to keep your eye on everything and on every process. So it really, these succinct reports that show you a problem, and then you can drill deep from there, as opposed to giving everybody all the information. It's easy to get lost. So I think that's something that we've spent a lot of time and effort in terms of understanding what stakeholders need, and building a report and then changing it and then changing it again.
Right. Yeah, it's about prioritization. It's about visualization for the right person, giving them the right data. So important.
Yeah, and the ability to share information. Right. So as an example, we have reports up on site in the warm room, and when you come in the morning, you can see what the last shift did in your heading. And so it gives you an understanding of what you're going into. And operators don't always have that knowledge. You don't always get to talk to your cross shift, and you don't always know what they left. And so just making it visible and having people self-serve, and using the power of everyone at the mine, because when everybody has the information, everybody can help solve issues and work towards solutions. And
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Well, actually, this definitely helped us get a better understanding of IROC. I think certainly coming in, you are, like Steve mentioned, for me, it's like NASA. You really are in mission control. You see everything that's going on in the underground operations. And before we let you go, we'd be remiss, because we've asked some of your staff the same question. The podcast is coming out June 15th, which is the day of International Day of Women in Mining. What would be a message that you'd want to leave, girls and women that might be tuning in that day to maybe hear our podcast, but just in generally celebrating International Day of Women in Mining?
Yeah, I just strongly encourage women to consider a career in mining. Pay is great.
Yeah.
You get to live in Sudbury, which is an awesome place to live. Great community. We have Costco, and we have 300 lakes. So, in terms of mining camps, it's world class.
Yeah.
It's challenging. Myself, I've had multiple careers. I've been here 23 years, and I've gotten to do different roles and really have multiple careers within the same organization. And really look for things that excite you. And if you like working with your hands, and it's super rewarding, and it's really leaves you with a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day.
That's unreal. That's super. Christine Gastiger, Gas Tiger, Christine, thank you so much for sharing your staff with us for today, and for sharing your insights with us. It was great to meet you.
Well, thanks for coming out and hearing a little more about what we do.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
The Unlikely Innovators with Mike Commito and Steve Gravel. Presented by Cambrian R&D and the Center for Smart Mining.